A revolution betrayed, a pioneer forgotten, a legacy erased. These are strong words, but what else can you call it when you build a historic event on the back of a global superstar, only to pretend she doesn't exist when you decide to do it all over again? The story begins with the triumphant sights and sounds of the first WWE Evolution event. We see Stephanie McMahon proudly announcing the show, a landmark moment. We see the brutal, star-making, last woman standing match between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. The finals of the Mae Young Classic showcase the future. The music is celebratory, historic, and at the center of it all is Ronda Rousey. Her intense stare-downs, her dominant in-ring style, her holding the Raw Women's Championship high as she celebrates her victory over Nikki Bella in the main event. It was the culmination of a promise. Then, silence. The screen in our minds goes black, and a single, stark quote hangs in the air. They never called. That quote, from Ronda Rousey herself, is the crux of this story. The news dropped like a bombshell, not in a press release or a dramatic on-screen angle, but quietly, on a gaming stream. WWE Evolution 2, the long-awaited sequel to the groundbreaking 2018 all-women's pay-per-view, was announced. The card is set to be a celebration of women's wrestling, past, present, and future. Legends are returning. Champions will collide. A new generation will get its moment to shine. But one name, perhaps the most crucial name from the first event, was conspicuously absent. And when Ronda was asked about it, her answer sent a shockwave through the wrestling world. It wasn't about money, scheduling, or creative differences. According to the woman who main-evented the first Evolution, the woman whose mainstream star power arguably made the event possible in the first place, WWE never even reached out. They never made the call. How is this possible? How does a company that meticulously curates its own history simply forget the baddest woman on the planet? The answer is a complicated story of burnt bridges, shifting priorities, corporate strategy, and perhaps the ultimate case of professional disrespect. We need to go beyond simply asking if WWE snubbed Ronda Rousey and dive deep into the reasons why. To understand the magnitude of this omission, we have to go back. Before 2018, the women's revolution in WWE was well underway, championed by the four horsewomen, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. They were changing the perception of women's wrestling from the inside. But a revolution needs a catalyst, an explosion that forces the entire world to pay attention. Enter Ronda Rousey. She wasn't just a fighter. She was a cultural phenomenon. We remember her from the UFC, the first female champion, an undefeated arm-collecting force of nature who brought women's MMA into the mainstream. Her name carried weight far beyond combat sports. So, when she appeared at the 2018 Royal Rumble, pointing at the WrestleMania sign, the message was clear. The game had changed. Her debut at WrestleMania 34 is, without exaggeration, one of the greatest rookie performances in WWE history. Teaming with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, she didn't just look competent, she looked like a prodigy. She was explosive, believable, and had an undeniable star quality. WWE immediately strapped the rocket to her back. She won the Raw Women's Championship and embarked on a dominant, undefeated reign. She was the anchor of Monday Night Raw. So, when WWE decided to launch Evolution, there was only one person who could be in the main event. Her match against Nikki Bella wasn't a technical masterpiece, but it didn't need to be. It was the main event, because Ronda Rousey was the biggest star in the company. Her presence gave Evolution a mainstream credibility it wouldn't have had otherwise. She was the final stamp of approval. And she didn't stop there. 6 months later, she, along with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, became the first women in history to main event WrestleMania. In just over a year, Ronda had been the centerpiece of two of the most historic moments in women's wrestling history. She left after that WrestleMania, but her impact was undeniable. So when the drums started beating for Evolution 2, her involvement felt like a foregone conclusion. To not have her there would be like having an anniversary for the moon landing and not inviting Neil Armstrong. And yet the invitation was never sent. To understand why, we must explore several possibilities, starting with the most personal one. The first theory is that this is a simple case of burnt bridges. Ronda Rousey has never been one to mince words. During her time away from WWE and even during her second run, she was openly critical of the business. We all saw the clips and read the quotes. She called the fights fake. She referred to the fans who had turned on her as ungrateful. She spoke at length about her disdain for the grueling WWE travel schedule. To many within the wrestling bubble, these comments were the ultimate sign of disrespect. In the world of pro wrestling, there are unwritten rules. You protect the business, you respect the fans, you honor the grind. Ronda, an outsider from the real fight world, either didn't understand these rules or simply didn't care for them. Her second run from 2022 to 2023 was a different story. The aura was gone, fan reception was mixed, and her performances felt less explosive. It often felt more like a contractual obligation than a passion project. Could it be that simple? Did the powers that be in WWE look at her history of public criticism and decide she wasn't worth the headache? Why invite someone to your party who has publicly stated they don't like your parties or your other guests? From a corporate standpoint, bringing Ronda back could be seen as rewarding behavior they want to discourage. Perhaps this is WWE drawing a line in the sand. This leads us to a colder, more calculated possibility. This was a pure business decision. In 2018, WWE needed Ronda Rousey's mainstream appeal to sell Evolution to a wider audience. They needed ESPN and Fox Sports talking about their all-women's show. Ronda was the key, but it's not 2018 anymore. The WWE women's division of today is arguably the strongest it has ever been, filled with popular homegrown stars. Rhea Ripley isn't just a wrestling star, she's a pop culture figure. Bianca Belair is a powerhouse athlete. Becky Lynch is a living legend. Does WWE need Ronda Rousey today to sell a women's show? The honest answer is probably not, and Ronda Rousey does not come cheap. A performer of her stature commands a massive salary. The question from a business perspective becomes, is the cost of bringing in Ronda for one night worth the potential return, especially when you could use that same money and screen time to elevate a full-time superstar? The new WWE, under TKO Group Holdings, is all about efficiency. Paying a premium for what they might see as a nostalgia act may not be a sound investment if it doesn't significantly move the needle more than their current top stars. It's a cold corporate truth. Ronda's value to WWE has diminished, while the value of their homegrown talent has skyrocketed. Evolution 2 is the perfect platform to showcase their investment. But what if the reason is less about the past or money and more about the present creative landscape? This brings us to a third theory. Creatively, they simply had nothing for her. If Ronda Rousey were to appear at Evolution 2, what would she do? You can't just put her in a battle royal. That's an insult to her status. She needs a marquee singles match. But against whom? Rhea Ripley? That's a WrestleMania-level main event that deserves a months-long story. Bianca Belair? Another dream match too big for a one-off. The fundamental problem is that Ronda is a shark in a swimming pool. Her presence immediately overshadows almost everyone. A match for her would have to be a top match of the night, taking a valuable spot from a full-time performer. It's possible that WWE's creative team simply couldn't find a logical spot for Ronda that wouldn't disrupt their long-term storytelling. The show, in their view, might be stronger when focused entirely on the current narrative. Of course, there is another, far more tantalizing possibility, one that lives in the very heart of professional wrestling. What if we're all being played? What if this is all a work? In wrestling, the line between reality and fiction is a playground. A worked shoot is the art of making the audience believe something is real to generate the most authentic emotional response. Imagine the scenario. Ronda, the forgotten hero, airs her grievances. The internet explodes with righteous anger. The discourse is completely dominated by her absence. Then, on the night of the show, just as the main event is about to start, that iconic guitar riff of Bad Reputation hits the speakers. The arena would come unglued. It would be an all-time great surprise. Her real frustration becomes the fuel for a new, compelling storyline where she is an invading anti-hero, angry at the machine that forgot her. It's a masterstroke of manipulation that turns negative buzz into must-see television. It's a beautiful theory, but it's also the most optimistic one. It assumes a level of creative foresight and a collaborative spirit that may no longer exist. So, where does that leave us? A personal grudge? A cold business calculation? A creative dead end? Or the greatest angle in modern history? The truth is, it's likely a combination of the first three. The work theory is a fun fantasy, but the evidence points towards a more mundane and disappointing reality. The relationship between Ronda Rousey and professional wrestling has always been complicated. She was an outsider who became the queen, a figure who brought legitimacy but also carried a disdain for the artifice of the business. WWE, as a corporation, is a forward-facing entity. Its goal is to create new stars, not constantly pay homage to past ones, especially those who left on lukewarm terms. The women's division has successfully moved on. In a way, that is the greatest testament to Ronda's impact. The revolution she helped legitimize is now strong enough to stand on its own. But that doesn't make the decision to ignore her any less disrespectful. It reveals the transactional, cold-blooded nature that often defines the company. You are valuable until you are not. Your history-making contributions are celebrated until they become inconvenient. Forgetting to invite Ronda Rousey to Evolution 2 is a statement. It's WWE subtly rewriting its own history, positioning the women's revolution as a purely homegrown phenomenon where Ronda was merely a famous guest star whose contract expired. And that is the ultimate betrayal. It's a betrayal of the moment, of the impact, and of the woman who stood in the center of the ring, holding the championship high as the first and only Evolution went off the air. Perhaps one day, time will heal these wounds, and Ronda will take her rightful place in the Hall of Fame. But for now, as the celebration of women's wrestling prepares for its second chapter, its most explosive protagonist has been written out of the story, and the revolution feels a little less revolutionary for it.